So in the wake of a mass shooting, one of the things that we pay attention to is how organizations like the NRA, those who push for ever-increasing gun rights, react to this, especially when the person had weapons they never should have had and uses that to kill multiple people. And usually the way it works is the NRA goes dark, the social media manager takes 3 or 4 days off, and maybe they have Dana Loesch make a video or something, and we laugh about it because it's ridiculous. And it seems like sort of an ad hoc thing, that they are just responding in real time to the events that are happening, but it turns out it's not actually that way. They do have a strategy, and it is not just meant to be applied here in the US. So thankfully, Al Jazeera conducted an undercover investigation for quite some time where they had an undercover reporter embed and film meetings happening between representatives of the NRA and an Australian party that wants to push for more gun rights. And so I want to delve into the advice that the NRA gave to this party so that they could seek to dismantle Australia's fairly rigorous gun control laws. So first, the party. Australia's One Nation Party, led by Senator Pauline Hanson, has long sought to relax the country's gun laws, which ban almost all automatic and semi-automatic rifles and shotguns. The rules, some of the toughest in the world, were introduced back in 1996 after a gunman with a semi-automatic rifle killed 35 people in the town of Port Arthur. Since then, Australia has had no mass shootings where the attackers did not know their victims. However, the NRA has denounced Australia's laws as, quote, not the definition of common sense. So why do they say that? They say that because they don't want those laws applied here inside of the US, and they certainly don't want that case to be used in pushing for gun control laws here in the US. So they had a mass shooting, they got rid of the guns, the shootings became far less common. It seems like something that could be applied to other places, and in other places that have much more stringent gun control laws, you do see far fewer massacres of the sort that we've become incredibly normalized to in the US. So, what is their strategy? They had these meetings, there are tapes that exist right now, you can actually go see them. There's a 48-minute one that is fascinating. So some of the takeaways: first, say nothing. If media queries persist, go on the offense, offense, offense. Smear gun control groups. Shame them with statements such as, quote, how dare you stand on the graves of those children to put forward your political agenda. Now that objectively is terrible, but understand that they're saying this is what you should do in the immediate aftermath of a massacre. You should say, how dare those people try to limit guns, a political agenda, in the wake of the shootings. That's what you should do to push for more guns. So it's 100% projection. They want to use the opportunity as much as anyone. They just want it to be easier to get access to the exact sorts of guns that were used in these shootings. Furthermore, quote, just shame them to the whole idea. If your policy isn't good enough to stand on itself, how dare you use these deaths to push that forward? How dare you stand on the graves of those children? And so this is the individual, Lars Dalsade, NRA Public Relations. Obviously very skilled at public relations. Might have caused a bit of a PR problem for the NRA when the tapes got out, though. But goes on to say, you have somebody who leans to your side that worked at a newspaper. Maybe he was covering a city hall or was a crime reporter. We want to print up stories about people who were robbed, had their home invaded, were beaten, or whatever it might be. And that could have been helped had they had a gun. And that's going to be the angle on your stories. That's what he's got to write. He's got to put out 2 to 5 of those a week. Now, imagine that. That, of course, if you actually were to pursue that strategy, people would have no idea that there was this sort of coordination between local crime reporters and the NRA. It could be taking place anywhere in the US or in Australia. It could be taking place in your local newspaper. And it could seem like, man, there's just one guy that really thinks people need to arm themselves, but he could actually be taking marching orders from the PR team at the NRA. 2 to 5 stories a week. Taking any case of violence and implying if the people had just had guns, it would have turned out better. That is their actual strategy. Now going forward, let's see, we have sort of another example of this. We pitch guest columns in the local papers. A lot of the times we'll write them for like a local sheriff in Wisconsin or whatever, and he'll draft it or she will help us draft it. We'll do a lot of the legwork because these people are busy, and this is our job. So we'll help them, and they'll submit it with their name on it so that it looks organic. You know that it's coming from that community, but we will have a role behind the scenes. So that's Catherine Mortensen, again, NRA Public Relations. Because she didn't know at the time that she was being recorded, she's willing to be very honest and open about it. They are making up these things, giving them to sheriffs or whoever, wherever, to make it look organic. And then think about the things that you hear elected officials say in DC. It might sound like, man, this politician just really likes hunting. Man, this person's got it in for deer. But how do you know that that speech actually had anything to do with the person who's delivering it and not everything to do with the NRA handing it to them? Doing a lot of the legwork for them because, you know, they're busy or whatever. And that is how, across the country, you have what is still relatively a small organization. The NRA gives money, but they're not one of the biggest lobbies, but they sure seem very popular. They seem damn near unassailable. And perhaps that's because they have a very good PR team going around the country and making it seem like more people support their agenda than actually do. And specifically trying to get that done in the wake of mass shootings when people are finally shaken out of their stupor and might do something about the violence that plagues us so commonly. Now, in this case, of course, it's made even worse because it's not just that they're trying to continue that cycle of violence here in the US, but they're trying to export it to Australia to get the massacres happening again in that country, a country that actually did do something about gun violence and has saved countless lives since then. Not if the NRA has their way. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.